Hello and welcome to another episode of Cheeky Scientist News. I'm Isaiah, and today's top story: why is it so hard to get hired when unemployment is so low? And that is essentially the title of this new article by Business Insider. Why is it so hard to find a job right now despite low unemployment? There's a variety of factors that are discussed. One of the main factors that is talked about is just how long it takes to get hired today versus a few years ago. It's about 10% higher. So it's about 45 days to get hired now for the average job. Now that's for all jobs, unskilled and skilled. For skilled positions, so if you're watching this and you have an advanced degree, the skilled positions can be as high as 80 days now, if not longer. And another topic that's brought up in the article is ghost job listings. So there's a lot of metrics in the economy that is based on how many jobs are posted, job openings. The problem is they never follow up to see if those jobs are actually filled or if they're real jobs or what the timeline is. So if there's 100 jobs posted today versus 100 jobs posted 5 years ago, but those 100 jobs posted today, more than half are ghost jobs or they're taking twice as long to fill, right? The job market's actually worse. If you're having a tough time in today's job market, it's not just in your head. It is challenging. I don't think unemployment will ever go up again to levels that we've seen it maybe during the Great Recession, et cetera. I don't think it's going to approach double digits anytime soon. I think people are doing a lot of different part-time jobs. I think there's so many jobs that are posted that are ghost job listings. And I think there's so many lower skilled, so-called blue-collar jobs that people just don't want anymore, working in a factory, fast food, et cetera, that you're going to see these numbers always stay low. But it doesn't mean the job market is easier. It's actually more challenging. Another article that I wanted to share today is top 5 reasons your job search is taking too long, right? So, of course, the data that I just discussed talked about how all jobs, even the ones that are filled quickly at a fast food restaurant, if you combine all of them, it's about 45 days, now 10% higher than a few years ago. But there are things that you can do to shorten the job search, to still get hired, because you can get hired, right? So number one, you're fishing in a sea with too few fish. Let's say you're going for one of these, kind of buzzworthy jobs, user experience researcher, medical science liaison. And that was fine a couple of years ago during the Great Resignation, when people were throwing job opportunities at you if you walked out into the street. But today, you're going to have to expand that job search, learn what other job titles are out there, and explore beyond just that one job title that you heard that you liked. Understand what jobs lead to other jobs. Product managers, a ubiquitous job title protected during recessions, often lead into UX researcher roles, just for that one example. So you have to expand your job search. You have a blind spot. Are you asking somebody else? Right? Somebody that's not attached as a friend, right? Somebody that actually is like a third party and saying, hey, can you take a look at my resume? And are you giving them permission to be brutally honest with you, right? To give you criticism, constructive criticism, sure, but to really tell you, this makes no sense to me. I don't even understand these words. What are you talking about? You have a bunch of jargon, a bunch of skills, acronyms here that I don't even know what that means. Now I want to talk about the number one reason. If you're watching this, very likely the number one reason that you're not being hired is because you're being seen as overqualified. This is a theme that we're going to stay focused on all year because people who have advanced degrees, whether you have a PhD, an EDD, another advanced degree, any degree whatsoever, if you have any degree, associates or higher, you're more educated than half of the first world population, okay? Right? If you have a master's degree, you're in the top 10%, a doctorate, top 2%. You are going to be seen as overqualified. New data just came out showing that people who have their hiring, people who are hiring managers, people who are talent acquisition specialists, collectively all people who work in recruitment, 75% have a bachelor's degree, 95% have a bachelor's degree or less. Can you talk to them in a way that makes sense to them, where you show them your value? Now, there's a great article, really it's just a list. It says, why do overqualified job seekers get rejected? I love this. It's a one-sheet list. Again, why do overqualified job seekers get rejected? I highly recommend looking at this by Prince Pearson and Associates. Number one, you'll leave the company. That's, of course, what they're thinking. You're at the top of the pyramid, the top of the ladder in education, whether you think you are or not, right? I just told you those percentages. Why would you come down, work at this company, unless you're going to use it to get to another role? Okay, and of course you're thinking, well, yeah, I want to climb. I have big dreams and goals. Well, they don't care about that. They care about how your goals align with their goals. Are you going to stay at the company for at least 5 years? Why do you think one of the most common questions is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? You can't convince them that they won't hire you. And I'll say what most people won't say. Yes, you have to convince them that you will stay there for 5 years, even if you're sure you're likely going to go somewhere else. Number 2, you don't fit into the pecking order, as in, right, like, think about it from the hiring manager's perspective. If they hire somebody with an advanced degree, they're already intimidated by you. They think you're going to come on board, and then you're going to be somebody telling them what to do. You're going to be somebody who's more knowledgeable than them that makes them look bad. They're still people. Everyone has an ego. Okay, so you can't intimidate them, and you need to make sure that they can slide you into the pecking order, even if it means your manager to start as somebody with a bachelor's degree. Can you communicate that you're okay with that? That you can get along with people with less education than you, less skills than you. Like you understand you have a lot to learn about business or this sector that you're getting into for the first time. Number 3, you won't be the best, you won't work to the best of your ability because you're going to get bored. Right? It's going to be new and exciting for a couple of months and you're like, okay, I'm ready for something else to do. And to be fair, I've worked with a lot of people with doctorates, advanced degrees who after 3 to 6 months, they're settled in, now they're bored. They've done anything and they're like, wait a sec, I got to do this for the next 2 to 3 years? Wait, what? Like I'm ready for the next thing. So you got to make sure that you're ready to give a lot for a few years in that role without a change, or at least convince them of that. Your salary demands will be too high. You got to tell them you understand what the salary is for the role. You can, yes, negotiate higher, but especially early on, you got to make it clear that you're not going to demand something crazy. Even if you are going to demand something crazy, you can later, but you got to get their buy-in first and help them not see you as too overqualified as somebody, oh my God, they got a doctorate, they're going to want like $500,000. That's how they see things. You don't see things that way. You think it's crazy because you're coming out of academia and poor. They don't see it that way because they think a doctor. Okay, you got to see it from your audience's perspective. You're not the favorite. Sometimes they'll just tell you you're overqualified because it's one of the legal things they can say. But you won't give buy-in to younger managers. So the younger managers, right, might be managing you. This is what I was talking about earlier. You won't give them buy-in. You won't like agree with them. You'll act like you know better than them because you have a higher education degree and you might know better than them, but you got to give buy-in. You have to play those kind of politics to say, okay, you know what, I'm going to support you in this. I'm not 100% aligned. I'm not going to tell you everything that's wrong with it. I'm going to pick my battles and I'm going to help push this forward as a team. I have several other articles that are on being overqualified, but a lot of them reiterate that list. I do want to share a couple of them. One's in Better Up. It says, here's what to do when you're overqualified but want the job anyway. Love this article. It talks about, okay, you're overqualified. What can you do? It talks a lot about being upfront about it. Saying, look, you know, I know I have this advanced degree, and maybe you're asking why I'm applying for the job. Let me tell you why. Because I want to stand behind this company's mission. I believe in your culture, your values. I know that I might get on a team where somebody has less education than me, but they're going to have way more experience at this company, just like you do, and I'm here to listen. I'm here to learn. That should be your pitch. That's how you get past the overqualified barrier. Why you were called overqualified, another article. This one's in Forbes. I like it. It's a lot of the same things. They don't know how to reject you, right? So again, they could just say you're overqualified because they don't know what else to say. Your salary range is too high. They think you're short-term focused. They think really that you're just going to use them to get to somewhere else. The real problem is that you're too long-term focused. You're like, okay, I'm going to be in this role for a year or two. I'm going to go to the next role, or I want a promotion right away. You have to really, really convince them that you're not going to do that you're there to give everything to that role. And that you're okay. And if they ask you where you're going to be in 5 years, I see myself in this role, but doing an even better job, right? Once you're in, you could always see where things land. You could always, right, push to get a promotion later, but you got to get hired first. They think you can't adapt. This is a big one, right? Even though in some cases, for those of you that have doctorates, you're doctors of learning, like you've learned how to learn. They think that you'll be too stuck in your ways of how things were done, maybe in academia or maybe in that last sector of industry you were in, and that you won't be able to adapt. So you got to tell them. They're not going to assume it. I'm highly adaptable, highly flexible. I want to learn. I'm here to learn. I'm here to go through a period of deep observation to learn to do things your way. One more article on being overqualified that I really like, and this is a great article to read because it's written for hiring managers, right? It says, considering an overqualified candidate, how to gauge whether they'll stick around. That just shows you the problem that the hiring managers have in their mind. Like, wait a second, is this person going to stick around? They have a doctorate. They have an advanced degree, a master's degree, whatever it is. Will they stick around? That's their biggest concern. You know, it costs the same amount, whatever that first year salary is, that's how much it costs to hire you and onboard you. Let's say it's $100,000 to make it easy math and easy to talk about. Would I spend $100,000 to bring this person on if they're going to leave in a year? But that's what they're asking themselves. And it affects their performance. They get their bonuses based on a 2-year retention rate. That's the gold standard in recruitment. If you come on board and stay for 2 years because they don't get any of their money back in terms of having to train you and everything else until after 2 years. Create a multi-step hiring process. This is why hiring is taking longer and longer. 5 interviews on average now, right? 2019, it was 2. Now it's 5. For some tech companies, other company sectors, it's 8. Understand their deeper motivation. This is why we have so many behavioral questions now, why questions. Follow the thread of their passion, right? This is why they're asking you, not just what you're good at, what do you enjoy doing? Learn about their journey so far. They're going to ask you a lot of questions. This is where storytelling matters, and that's what we're going to close with today. Examine their experience in addressing complex challenges, behavioral questions. Tell me about a conflict you had with a past supervisor. Right? Pay attention during interviews. Ask up front, why are you applying for this job if you have a doctorate, if you're overqualified, if you have an advanced degree? Right? You have a degree. This job doesn't require a degree. Why are you applying? Determine their ability to contribute directly to the cause. Identify their passion for the mission. Get to the why. Learn about volunteer and family activities, right? This is why they ask so many questions about hobbies, memberships, etc. today, because that'll give them insights on whether or not you can get along with people that don't have your education level. Okay, don't forget, storytelling matters. In today's Don't Forget section, I want to talk about 2 articles. One's called The Key to Landing Your Next Job, Storytelling. Great article in the Harvard Business Review by Janine Kurnoff and Lee Lazarus. Today's workforce is hyper-competitive. How do you get ahead? By beginning with the audience in mind, the hiring manager with the bachelor's degree or less, in most cases, right? How do you talk to them? How do you explain what you've done? And how can you do it in a way that shows that you're not overqualified or underqualified, but perfectly qualified? It says, have a theme and promote it throughout your job hunt. This is called a unique selling proposition. Ideally, it's something highly transferable, like maybe you're a project manager that can bring in all stakeholders on a project, but you also have this advanced technical skill in this type of assay, right? Or in this type of programming or whatever it is. Like, that's an impressive theme. You can drive that forward, or you know how to spark change in this area. You know how to drive revenue, something that matters to the company. It's got to be that unique selling proposition. Your theme is not just here. Your theme is not just there to help you take control of your narrative. It is a tool you can use to influence the memory a recruiter associates with you. That's what storytelling is. And that's what this article and the next one talks about, is how you activate the employer's entire mind when you tell a story. They'll never forget you. You'll stay top of mind. Context, context, context. So it talks about setting, characters, conflict resolution. I love this. Maybe you've heard of the STAR technique, situation, task, action, result. What that's missing that is really important for today is the characters. So the setting is the situation, right? So 2 years ago in the department, or 2 years ago when I was in this role, whatever it is, like set the stage. On a dark and stormy night, right? Set the stage. But then say who the characters were. Like getting buy-in from other people, knowing that you can work with a team, communicate is so important today. So I love that it points out the characters of the story. Who else was involved in this situation? You have to call them out. Make sure that they know that it wasn't just you by yourself. You were interacting with others. You understand there's a team dynamic involved. What was the conflict, the problem, and then how did you resolve that problem? And the one thing I wanted to bring out of this second article, also in the Harvard Business Review about storytelling, is that you need to be the hero, but you also have to be vulnerable, for lack of a better word. As in, you can't just say, I'm awesome, I did this. You have to say, okay, this was a mistake. This is what I learned from it, how I overcame it. So how were you, not the reluctant hero, but how did you learn something in the process? How did you overcome? That is key. This article, the second one's called The Best Job Candidates Are the Best Storytellers. Right, so all successful interviews hinge on a great story. Now, even the interview questions, can you tell me about yourself? What are your greatest strengths and weaknesses? Can you explain a challenge you overcame? They want to hear a story from you. You got to be a better storyteller. Right? Choose a story that left a lasting imprint on you. Right? Bring the interview into the story with the details. As it says, it talks about the adage, God is in the details. You got to be specific. Bring up something specific. Like this was the conflict specifically. It was this deadline. We couldn't figure out how to do exactly this to get this, right, grant in on time, or this project proposal in on time, or the statement of work in on time, whatever it was. But the details, what exactly did you do in that project? Not jargon, but details. Like build up the story through those details. And then, as I said, right, in the end, don't just be the hero, be the vulnerable hero. Talk about what did you have to learn? What did you have to shift in terms of your thinking? How did you decide? How did you decide to bring somebody in? What did somebody else teach you? And then you applied it, and then you overcame it, and you resolved it, and that's what you're going to bring to this company too. That's how you get hired. This takes us to the end of today's news show. As always, stay current and keep advancing in your career.